Today on The American Land Seller, we're unpacking a topic that's come up before, but it's so important we're going to dive back in. The 1031 exchange. If you're a landowner, investor, or real estate professional, understanding how to defer taxes through a 1031 could mean the difference between saving and reinvesting tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm joined today by Heath Bandars, Exchange Liaison at Clark Wealth Strategies, a fiduciary firm that specializes in 1031 exchange solutions. Heath works at the intersection of land sales, wealth management, and client education, partnering with qualified intermediaries and land agents to guide their clients towards smart, passive replacement options that align with their goals. He brings a unique background from the banking world and now teaches continuing education classes on 1031 exchanges, currently certified in Nebraska and expanding into other states. Now in this episode, we're going to break down what a 1031 exchange really is, no jargon, just the facts, real world scenarios where it can help farmers, ranchers, and investors, what land agents must know to add value for their clients in these situations. And yes, we've covered 1031 exchanges before on this podcast, but if you think you already know it all, this conversation is going to surprise you. He shares new insights and perspectives that show just how many opportunities and pitfalls exist in this space. So whether you're looking to protect your capital gains, unlock some passive income, or you're an agent simply wanting to better serve your clients, this episode might just be a must listen to.
Welcome to the American Land Seller Podcast with your host, Kobe Rickardson. Kobe is an accredited land consultant and multi-state land broker with High Point Land Company. Join us each week as we explore all things land. We bring you fresh insights and expert guests on sales, marketing, regulations, economics, and so much more. Visit www.americanlandseller.com and find us on one of your favorite podcast platforms.
Okay, Kobe and our special guests, let's get started.
Hey, all right, we're back here with the American Land Seller Podcast, episode 36. So I guess, what is this, 36, 37 today? Heath, how do you feel about 37?
37? I'm trying to think of any great sports athletes that I admired growing up. 37, not necessarily coming to mind, but maybe we'll make the number famous, who knows?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're going to have to do. We have Heath Bandars from Clark Wealth Strategies. Heath, how are you this fine day?
Good. It's Good Friday. Everything's going smooth. The world's spinning. We're doing good. We're living. We're breathing. Life is good. So
yeah. So you tell us just a little bit about Clark Wealth Solutions or Clark Wealth Strategy. I tell everybody there's 3 segments to this show because I need 3 segments to get your name, your company, and what you do right. So if you could just tell us a little bit about what it is you're up to. We've talked about 1031 exchanges on this show before, but they are so important. And so I wanted to bring you on to maybe just dig into the nuts and bolts, maybe talk just a little bit about like the machine of a 1031, how it exactly works and how it benefits our clients and your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So to start, Clark Wealth Strategies, we were founded in 2008 by our president, Dave Clark. In the middle of a recession, he thought, what a great idea to start a wealth planning firm. So it worked out that first year, and he thought, well, if I got through the recession, I might have something here. We were a traditional wealth management firm up until about 10 years ago when Dave performed his first 1031 exchange. Now, Clark Wealth still exists and we still do the wealth planning side, but we also have a subsidiary called Fiduciary 1031 Exchange Solutions. That's kind of our new focus now. Dave did his first 1031 exchange in 2015 or 2016 and then kind of just discovered, man, this industry really is missing someone who does things a fiduciary way, transparent solutions for clients, no set menu for clients, but really whatever a client wants to invest in and do, they should be able to do that. So that's where Fiduciary 1031 was born. I've been with the firm for about 2 years, going on 3 years now. And my role at the firm is a 1031 Exchange Liaison, which is just a very fancy way of saying I'm a connector. So I connect with clients, land agents, qualified intermediaries with us to help identify replacement properties for the client when performing a 1031. Sounds like a lot. Sounds kind of like a math equation a little bit, but as we get into it, I'm happy to kind of explain that process and where we come into play and how we help you guys out.
Okay, so let's just start because we had the guys from Accruit on before. You
Yep.
know those guys, great
Yep.
guys. You just a couple weeks ago, you were just talking about that before we started, that you just ran into one or both of those guys out in Washington, D.C. as you guys were flexing your giant muscles, wrestling the congressmen and the senators, making
Yeah.
sure that they understand how important a 1031 exchange is
Yeah.
for the world of real estate. Let's just, so it's always confusing for people. Let's just start with a quick 1031 refresher. All right. In simplest terms, for those of us that are slow like me, what exactly is a 1031 exchange?
Yep. So if you are someone who owns a commercial property or land and you sell that property, the government has a tax code called the 1031 tax code that allows you to exchange or sell that property and put the investments into another property to defer capital gains and depreciation recapture tax. So it's not a loophole. You're not eliminating the tax. You are deferring the tax, and then you can reinvest it into another property. And the government says that is a successful completion of a 1031 exchange.
Right. So you're not, it's basically like we've kind of heard about that with our current president through some of the politics stuff of you're not dodging taxes with this. You're essentially it's a tool that the government's used to help create reinvestment in real estate, correct? I mean, essentially that's what keeps people wanting to do projects, sell projects, reinvest in new projects.
Right. And it's been around since 1921. Originally, primarily to help farmers and people in the ag industry. So it's been around for forever. As you mentioned, I was just in DC. Both sides of the aisle use this personally, in addition to mostly supporting it. We had talks a couple years back about a potential cap to be put on exchanges. We had so much, I think it was around 600 billion in GDP that this industry alone adds. So it would be detrimental if this goes away at any point, which is why we do some lobbying. We're members of the Federation of Exchange Accommodators, the FEA. That's a pretty big component to kind of our work and making sure that, farmers around the Midwest, around the whole country, are able to still continue taking advantage of this because it really can benefit them in retirement, succession planning. Maybe it's a boat for their retirement home, whatever they want to do with these funds, that can be a substantial amount of additional income. So it's important.
Yeah. You had talked about, we just talked about you going to Washington, and I think it's interesting that, and what people don't realize with Washington DC and the new class of congressmen that just came in earlier this year and the new senators is what I've learned, and as growing in the industry, getting more involved in it, is the education that you have to have on the new guys that come in there. Because if you go look at the tax system and say, what's the first thing you look at is hey, I could solve the entire tax system by just putting an X through the 1031 exchange. Let's just tax all these, all these land transfers and these property transfers. And that's a huge amount of wealth we could bring into the government. Right.
Right.
And so we have to go and educate those guys on that. Probably those transfers aren't going to happen without the 1031. That's the way I understand it.
Yeah. Not only that, but just think about the amount of jobs 1031s create. There's all kinds of properties you can exchange into. There's multifamily, there's senior living centers, there's storage facilities, the list goes on. And all of those facilities and businesses have to run somehow. They require people. We estimated in a survey from 2021, so it's probably not even an up-to-date accurate number, but it was close to 1 million jobs that 1031s create each year in the country. I'm sure it's even higher than 1 million now, but that's pretty astronomical for what we're able to do. And a lot of people, like you said, it's the education piece. They just don't even know this exists. So it's really important to get out there. I'm a CE. I have a CE course here in Nebraska for 1031s. I'm trying to get certified in a few more states as well, so we can get out to land agents, inform clients, things like that. The education side is a really important factor for us.
So you do continuing ed for real estate agents?
Yep, we have a 1-hour CE course. Currently only in Nebraska. We're looking at Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Wyoming, Colorado. We're trying to get kind of the whole Midwest. We're based out of Omaha. We have a crew of 3, and then we do have a gentleman up in Minnesota, and he's CE certified as well in Minnesota. So that's kind of our mission, is education first, and then from there, advise and help where we can. So
yeah, I like it. You talked just a little bit a few seconds ago. You started to go through like some of the common types of properties. Let's just go through that. I think that's one of the things that people get snagged on too, is like, I think they think that you have to have a high rise for a high rise,
right.
And stuff like that. Or I also think that some people think that you can go all the way down to trading a high rise for a lake house if you want to.
Sure.
There
Sure.
are rules involved in this
Yep.
because it is, created for a specific purpose.
Right.
Let's go through it. Let's talk. I mean, and don't be afraid to dig into this, because I do want to. I want people to understand how this works and why we're allowed to do it.
Sure. So I'll start with what we primarily work with here at the firm. We work with what's called Delaware Statutory Trusts. These are called DSTs, the lingo in our world. Delaware Statutory Trusts are basically these large properties managed by what we call sponsors. These sponsors are vetted large companies that have purchased or acquired $30 to $50 to $100 million buildings or entities. You can be a fractional owner of that property. So let's say it is a senior living center in Florida. They're looking for clients to be able to invest into that property, which then, if you have a client, Kobe, who sells their farm, they could then turn around and invest into this. It's fully passive income, no managerial responsibility. It's pretty well vetted. We do a lot of due diligence to go into this. And we've also worked with all of these sponsors for quite a while now, especially Dave, our president. So we know who we like to work with. Dozens. There's dozens out there, but and then from there, you become a fractional owner. You get paid monthly passive income, and then in addition to that, your overall investment is going to grow anywhere between 4 to 6 to 7 years is kind of how long we see these properties last for the investment time. So at that point, you could either perform another 1031 exchange at the end of that cycle, what we call it, or you could say, you know what, I'm ready to, here's my next game plan. And at that point, that's when you'd have to pay your capital gains tax. So again, it's not a tax elimination. At some point, the government does get their share. But there's succession planning where, you can have these continue to roll over. If you pass at one point, your kids can take over and continue doing these. There's a lot of different scenarios out there. A lot of times I let the QIs, the qualified intermediaries, handle the details of that side. But as far as identifying these replacement properties, that's really where we come in. We work with so many of these sponsors, Kobe, that we kind of have built an inventory, if you will, anywhere from 30 to 40 active properties that are looking for investors. And we don't have to play by we don't take a dime from any of these DSTs. So we don't have a set menu our clients need to invest into or have to invest into. There's also opportunity zones and REITs. There's also a couple other, trying to think. Oil and gas is another big one. TICS is another one that's kind of a buzzword right now. So there's other options out there too that exist. And again, we have no constraints to help our clients go into those investments. So it's kind of what
Yeah.
makes us a little unique in the space.
Yeah. No, that sounds fascinating. And like it's a horrible time to take a break, but that's what keeps us edgy here. So we're gonna go ahead and do that right now.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back, and I really want to dig into. Um, I know that this DSTs and some of the stuff you were just talking about is a huge asset for some of my clients that are maybe trying to transition out of a long career of farming. But they also, when they sell their land, they don't know exactly what to do with it, and
Right.
so I think you guys might be their answer. So
Sure.
hold on, and we will be right back. The American Land Seller Podcast is brought to you in part by landhub.com. Join us today and experience the expertise of LandHub's land marketing professionals. Whether you're buying or selling, let us show you the way in the ever-evolving world of land transactions. Visit landhub.com and discover what the future of land marketing looks like. Landhub.com, where your land journey begins. And we are back here with Heath Bandars from Clark Wealth Management. Is that right, Heath?
Well, strategies, but yeah,
Strategies,
we,
something.
we do it all.
I got Clark right.
Yeah, there you go.
Close. I told you in the beginning, it takes me 3 segments to get it right. So I got your name right.
You only get one more chance then, Kobe, if that's the case.
I'm under a lot of pressure here, but I gotta say, I know a lot of people are listening to this, they're not watching it, but man, you have the sexiest studio. I thought that Casey Mock, when he was on, I still think he probably has one of the ones that is the top one, but man, you this is pretty awesome what you're doing here. You guys look like you're ready to. Are you expecting Fox News or somebody to call you? Is you just ready for that?
If they come calling. I got to stay ready. I got to compete. I don't want those AI generated backgrounds if they want us on. So yeah.
I don't know if you've watched our show. You know that I put a little logo on the your logo down to the bottom right of your deal. I don't even know if I need to do that.
I know we got to cover
it. Kind of taking over my entire deal, but let's okay. So let's dig into what's been really, really awesome for a lot of my clients, which is DSTs and some of the other stuff that you've talked about.
Sure.
It's the reality is that we've went through a generation, the World War II, the greatest generation, and their goal was keep the farm in the family, and a lot of hard feelings came out of that. A lot of because you had siblings that kind of fought with each other, and different things. Now this current generation, they're looking at their estate planning and they're saying, hey, if the kids aren't back farming, let's just get rid of the farm. Let's figure out a way so that the kids can still be family and not worry about land, right?
Right.
And it's a different world. And so DSTs have been a real good way to, how do we say, keep an asset that is something that has income to it. But these guys, they still have, they can sell their farm, trade that for another property, have income. Talk about how that works, Heath, and how my guys that are selling farmland right now, or thinking about selling farmland right now, can turn their farm into maybe something and they don't have to pay a ton of taxes right away.
Right. Yeah. So that's the tax deferral piece is probably the biggest advantage, right? But then when you look at it holistically, if you're a farmer and your kids went to college and they're not coming back to the farm because they studied education or went into finance or something else. We see that so often now with our clients where they just don't know what to do. And we have a lot of agents that call us and say, hey, I got a guy who's ready to sell, but he has no clue what he's going to buy after he's done selling. So
Right.
that's where we can come in and say, hey, here's a whole slew of options for you, tax deferred. It's going to generate monthly passive income, which most farmers have never not worked and produced income that way, right? So the fact that it's hands free makes it super enticing to a lot of these guys. And then on top of that, you can kind of succession plan it, if you will, for grandkids college, or maybe you have a kid in the state of Washington who's looking to buy a house, but they don't know where they're going to get the money from. Well, now you can kind of plan those things out when you do sell the farm to not just help yourself in your scenario, but also help the generations down the road that aren't going into farming, but still family, still people that you love. So, yeah, the whole process really can be life changing for a lot of clients.
Well, I think we learned a few weeks ago, right? Where, like if you had all your money in the stock market, that was a pretty scary week a few weeks ago. Not
Yep.
that it didn't rally, but
Right.
like it's one of those things that I think it's fascinating because you're technically, you're a silent investor in some of the biggest projects that are going on in the country,
Right.
and so it's fairly, nothing's safe, but it's a it's a fairly efficient way to invest your money. And what I like about it, and I think that's something that maybe you should go into a little bit, is there is dividend payments, or there could be monthly payments depending on what projects that you get into.
Yeah.
There's rent that that may be paid out to the investors on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I'll give you a good example. We just had a $10 million farm exchange in Western Nebraska at the start of the year. And we had a CPA call us and say, hey, I've got a client. It's a large farm deal. Uh, their kids are all somewhat involved in the deal as well, but it's getting split between all the kids. I think there's 3 of them. And they don't know what options exist. So we came in, had a meeting. Dave Clark, our president, was able to kind of sit them down and say, look, here's what we would do in your scenario. What do you guys think? And what he did was he laid out a very diverse investment portfolio, because 10 million bucks is quite a lot when it comes to investing into these DSTs. We're not going to put all of that money into one basket. So these guys were able to divvy it up with a couple multifamily properties, a couple storage facility properties, a couple senior living centers. This divvied up plentiful so that all the kids were able to choose what they're investing into, have a say in that. And then at the end of the deal, they're now going to be producing about $50,000 a month in monthly
Wow.
income passively just from sitting there. Not only that, but then these kids have their own children. So now down the road, who knows what the grandchildren will want to do with their lives, but they'll have money sitting in accounts that they'll be able to take advantage of, whether they want to go to college or whether they want to start a business, or maybe they want to buy land and start their own farm. The options are endless for what it can do to a family 30 years, 50 years, 100 years down the road. So for that particular scenario, worked out really well for what they needed. But I will also say too, every client has different wants and needs. Every client has a different goal that they're trying to get to for their end game. So we try to work with as many different folks as we can. A lot of times we work with not just the land agent, but we have qualified intermediaries that we work with all the time that these folks don't even know what that person does in the process. So we're able to kind of help explain that, help match them with the right people that they can all trust. And again, that's the base of our firm is fiduciary, transparent advice. We want what's best for the client. Not only is it our legal obligation to do so, but we just kind of think that's the right thing to do. So we like that mindset, and that's how we approach it.
Yeah. And that's awesome that you're taking that attack vantage, I guess, on the industry. Let's go back to let's circle back to the 1031.
Yeah.
So the vehicle, the 1031, like I think a lot of people don't really understand, because like even in your company, right, you have the fiduciary 1031 company, right? And then you
Right.
have Clark Wealth Strategies. I think I'm
Sure.
getting it, man. I think I'm going to nail this by the end. I'm pretty sure.
You're doing great.
Yeah, I'm confident. So Clark Wealth Strategies, and then you have the 10. Why do we have to have a different vehicle that like holds the money? Like, so because like it seems silly to people, right? Because we have 45 days after we've, you know, just go through from the start to the finish of a 1031 process.
Sure.
Walk us through that if you don't
Sure.
mind.
Yeah. So I'll clarify one quick thing. As far as our firm goes, Clark Wealth and Fiduciary 1031 is basically one holistic company. Think of it that way. We're the advisors that match the clients to a property, or a replacement property is what we call it. We might get hit up 2 months before they're actually listing that property for sale. You might already be involved, Kobe. You might be the one contacting us, or the client might contact us directly. From there, we give the client all their options, and they say, oh, you know what? I kind of like this multifamily property in Tennessee, and I like this storage facility in North Carolina. We kind of start mapping that out for them as you're getting ready to list the property. So we're all working together in sync with that. Then the sale of the property happens. They now have 45 days to identify what that replacement property is going to be. That's where we really start working and making sure we get the paperwork filed. That paperwork is going to get filed to the qualified intermediary. The QI is going to hold those funds of the sale of the property, because the client cannot at any time hold those funds. Otherwise, the government says, nope, that's capital gains. We got to get our fair share. So the QI is kind of the bridge between the start and the finish of this transaction. And they really are the ones facilitating the whole transaction. Once they get all of the paperwork they need filed, technically 180 days is the end of this exchange period. And then from there, about another 30 to 60 days later, that's when our investments, the client's investments that we help match them with, can start kicking in and working for that monthly passive income. So hopefully that paints a good picture of kind of the whole process from start to finish. It almost sounds too good to be true at times, because like I just mentioned, we have a client who's now making $50,000 a month in passive income, and they didn't even know that existed before we talked to them. So these things are out there to help, our farmers in the Midwest, our farmers. We deal with everyone from California to New York. We see it all. So.
Right. And so like folks like me, I mean, we have a few, colleagues that listen to the show. Folks like me, that the plan should be, right, is to bring you on as a partner and like sit down with our clients and say, hey, these are your options, right?
Right.
Like, here's the stuff we can, like you're afraid that you're going to get taxed, or you don't know what to do with your money. And, like there's so many, there's, it's kind of like winning the lottery. You farmed your whole life, and
Yep.
now all of a sudden you have a commodity that's finally worth something,
Right.
What do we do with it to kind of make sure we have something that that we can protect our wealth until our end? When's a good point to bring you on?
We like to be ahead of the sale. But with that in mind, we also have a quick turnaround time. So that's a big advantage to the client and to land agents. Is it could be day 43 or 44 of the process, and plans might fall through. You guys give us a call. We can give you some options that the client's going to not only be satisfied with, but still save the exchange, so they're not paying capital gains tax. We don't love those scenarios because it's kind of poop hitting the fan, if you will. But we like to be out in front of it, sit down, take the time. We kind of have a road show. So we like to get out on the road, go meet our clients, whether it's at their kitchen table, whether it's coffee, perhaps a beer every once in a while, Kobe. So we like to get out and really make sure they understand what it is they're getting into, what they want to get into. And then from there's a thorough plan in place.
Yeah, no, that realistically is the goal, right? So we can't just be stick a yard sign in and even in my industry, you can't just be stick a yard sign in and wait for the neighbor to call anymore. You have to be the complete gambit. You have to figure out a way to find, how to create the most value for your clients, and that includes finding people like you, Heath, to partner with to bring on. And like we've talked about it, I've got some clients that we're slow walking them through some stuff.
Sure.
And I think one of these days they're going to sit down with you and find out that I think you're the answer that they're looking for. It's just when you're dealing with family farm that's been in the family for a long time, I understand it. It's a lot,
Yeah.
it's just a lot. It's emotional. It's more than just it's more than just a commercial transaction, or
Right. Right.
it's a big deal. So you got to understand that. Hey, bud, we're going to take one last break, and if you got time, we're going to come back and spend a little bit more time with you, learning about Statutory 1031 and what you guys are up to. We will be right back.
Land isn't just dirt. It's where memories are made, families are raised, and livelihoods are built. But when it comes time to sell or buy, the weight of the decision is heavy. Where do you even start? Who can you trust to guide you? For too long, land transactions have been treated like a simple exchange. Numbers on a paper, a signature on a line. But it's more than that. At High Point Land Company, we don't just list land. We walk it, we learn its story, and we find the right buyer who understands its worth. You are not just another deal. You are the steward of something bigger. And we're here to help you navigate every step of the way. When it's time to sell, when it's time to buy, we're here. Because land is more than just land. It's your legacy.
All right, we are back here with Heath Bandars from Fiduciary 1031. That is a partnership or the same company or something. I don't know. That's the only thing I haven't quite figured out here, Heath, but it is with Clark Wealth Strategies. That's David Clark's company. And so I think I got most of that right in the third segment here. How'd I do?
You
Heath?
passed.
I passed. I'm gonna get like an 82 at least.
Yeah.
Like a B,
Yeah, we're good.
solid
We'll
B
call it an
plus.
82.
All right. Hey, so it's the American Land Seller podcast. So I would be remiss if I did not turn this all around and make it all about me in the end. So Heath, let's talk about how you can help land sellers like myself benefit our clients. How do we best use you and your tools and team?
Yeah. Well, for one, we're always here as a resource. So never hesitate to give us a call if you have a client that doesn't know what they're going to do, especially if they're stuck on the sideline with, hey, I have $2 million worth of land. I know it's worth $2 million, but I don't know what my next move is. Well, a lot of land agents call us and say, can you please talk to our client and give them some of your options so that we can move forward with them. we're happy to help on that front. Also, sometimes we get calls from you guys. Someone just did a deal and they have a little bit of leftover taxable boot. Maybe it's 50,000, maybe it's 100,000, but they still don't want to pay taxes on it. We can help them invest that too, so that they avoid that taxable boot. And then the other big thing is our quick turnaround. We can really, like I said, if poop hits the fan, day 44, your client doesn't know what they're going to do, but they have $1 million that might get taxed. Give us a call and we can help. And we're happy to. So those are the 3 key takeaways I would say we can help land agents. But really, again, on that education front, I do the CE courses. I do 15 minutes on a team meeting. I do an hour on a team meeting. That's not the CE course. And I just want to help inform people about 1031s, what their clients could potentially invest into, and see if we can help some folks out.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing that when we were sharing our bowl of amazingness down in Arizona at that restaurant, I think that's the one thing that I really took away from meeting with you and your team there was just how you guys have this big heart to help people, and like I you can always tell when you're talking to people, like there's people that you just know that they're like, all they are about is like walking away with a check, and then you got the people that the check is like the byproduct of just the process, and the
Right.
and the fun. And so I could definitely tell with you and David and all the guys that, the other guys that were there, that we were dealing with some people that genuinely just loved what they did, loved the process, and really were there for the joy of matching people with the right project. And so I did appreciate that when we were hanging out. What's like a minimum? Like, I mean, I've got property right now. We're getting, like we got on the market, $320,000, 80, little pasture out here. We're trying to sell. Is that something that's going to be, my clients would be qualifying with you, or is that just too low?
Yeah,
or
absolutely. No, these DST sponsors, they like to work with numbers like 100,000 or 200,000. We have a relationship that's strong enough with those guys now, where if we come to them and say, hey, we have a farmer out in Western Nebraska who he only has 50,000 of leftover taxable boot, but wants to invest it into your property. They're not even going to think twice. They're going to say, yep, we know your guys' process. We know how it works. We're happy to help. And we can make that work for sure. So
that's really cool. Okay. So we got 50,000 in. How long we locked into it for? Like, is there, everybody knows it rains, tornado, whatever, storm happens.
Yep.
How do I get my money out?
Yep.
What's that process look like?
Well, since we just had 2 tornadoes left and right of Omaha
not too long ago, yeah.
I'll kind of start there. So there are insurances in place to protect a client. I won't get into the nitty gritty, but there are some safety valves there. And then on top of that, we call them cycles. Traditionally, these DSTs have a 10-year cycle, but year 4, it could end up coming full cycle, and they could say, yep, we achieved what we needed to, and we're going to cash out now. At that time, the client can choose to do another exchange, or they can say, yep, I'm happy, I got what I needed, and we're good. So we typically see anywhere from 5 to 7, 4 to 6 years for these cycles. But again, if you're someone that has multiple eggs in different baskets, you might have a DST come full cycle after year 3 or 4, and then another property of yours that you invested in might be year 6. Another one might be year 8. So really, it depends on the property type, the sponsor, whoever you're investing with. There's a lot of factors that can play into it, but expect that going into it. There are some ways you can get out of it if you needed to have that liquid cash. It's a little bit challenging, but we can work with things with the sponsor to help facilitate that as well, as far as them getting cash needed for whatever might be thrown at you in life. So, yeah, there's a lot of different scenarios. But again, we have the resources. We know the QIs, we know the sponsors, land agents that we can call and say, hey, what do you think about this? We're also not trying to be the smartest people in the room, because I know for sure I'm not the smartest person in the room. So if we don't know something, we always know someone who does. And we're one call away from those contacts. So it's important to us as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like to say is that's the smartest thing I know is that I'm not the smartest one. So I find those people.
Does
So
that make you the smartest in the room knowing that?
I think there's math that I could probably find a smart person that could, make me math it out for me to be that. I think
Sure.
there's a way.
Yeah.
All right. So, we've talked about DSTs, things like that. You've also like oil, gas, some of this other fun stuff. We've got some time left. Let's go crazy. Let's talk about some other fun stuff you guys are playing with.
Yeah. Oil and gas, you mentioned, those are mineral rights. Depending on the time of the year, you might be getting some really great cash on cash returns, and other times you might not get any. And that's part of investing in that strategy. We have a lot of folks that use that as part of that diversification factor. So especially someone that sells $1 million, $2 million farm, they might say, hey, I want 200,000 in that. A couple other things are UPREITs. We've seen that lately. We had a client who called and said, hey, I want to do an UPREIT, which those cycles usually last upwards of 20, 25 years sometimes. And you're kind of locked in. Once you do that, you cannot have another exchange performed afterwards. But again, when it comes to succession planning and things like that, this particular client wanted his son to have a college fund sitting and waiting for him in a trust when all things were said and done. So there's a ton of strategies you can get into the weeds on. I would suggest anyone that's out there that's interested in those things, you just got to give us a call. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to talk about it with your clients. The scariest question to ask is, what are your plans after you sell the farm? And most of the time they're going to respond and say, well, that's none of your damn business, right? Well, we want it to not be our business, but we want to help make sure you know what you're getting into. So, yeah.
Well, and again, like you're right. That's a lot of what I get is, like but I think the best question to ask more so is like, what's holding you back on this? And a lot of times that's what it is.
Sure.
Like, I don't want to give the bleepity bleeping government my money, and so that's where you can kind of, oh, well, there's solutions for that. So most definitely. Right. What's kind of the craziest project you've seen that you guys have been able to have some fun investing in? Done some local Omaha stuff, haven't you? Like, we're from Nebraska, so
yeah, there's been a handful of
podcasts from Nebraska. That's rare anymore.
The crazy stuff that happens to us, Kobe, is when we're sitting at the table and there's 3 siblings, which any farm sale knows that there's always some family conflict involved. And we try to mediate it as best as we can. But when one sibling wants to do one thing, the other 2 want to go a different route, that can be a really tough, scary situation at times. You may not end up selling the farm, which at the end of the day, if that's what they decide to do, that's perfectly within their rights, right? And you want them to all be happy at the end of it. We've seen all kinds of scenarios. 24 people involved in a sale of a golf course that, how are we going to divvy this up, and get so far into the weeds of things. But yeah, we've seen it all. We hope that it can be as simplified and as easy for everyone involved. And we also hope that everyone walks away getting what they want out of it. More importantly, too, 9 times out of 10, we want you guys as land agents to be able to be on both sides, the sale of the property and the buy, whatever they're going to buy next. We just want to be the one time that someone is saying, hey, I'm done. I'm ready to be done, ready to be out. I'm selling the farm. That's where we can come in and kind of make that impact. So yeah, to your point, it can be crazy at the kitchen table with those conversations, but we do our best.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I go back to this. We've talked about that numerous times. It comes back to creating value, and that's
That's realistically, I think, like looking across where the world is going, especially in the world of real estate. We just went a month or so ago to Arizona to the National Land Conference, and those guys in RLI, the Realtors Land Institute, and that hang out at the National Land Conference, that is where the future of the land real estate is. And the guys that we deal with that want to just, they don't want to share, they don't want to cooperate, they don't want to work together. This is the way we've always done it. I think that's a scary future for them. I just don't know how that works going forward. Again, I may be wrong, but there's so many different things out there to help people transition to a better place that's safer for them. And again, this is just one of those tools that you guys have that to me is just, it's phenomenal for our clients to at least take a look at.
Yeah. I think our biggest thing too, at the end of it, is trust. You want to be able to have lunch or a beer with the people you're working with and know after all is said and done, they also have they have your best interests in mind. So that's why we try to be as transparent as possible when it comes to helping these guys.
Well, and like people that have worked with me before know that I am I'm so fun and loving and I am the greatest guy to work with, or I'm the biggest nightmare. Like, if you don't take care of my folks,
right? Yeah, exactly.
There's a Sybil to to me too, and I've had people that they're like, "Why are you so mad?" And I'm like, I thought, because I referred you, man. Like, what are you doing?
This is my neck on the line now.
We have got to take care of our people. We got to take care of our client. That's our job. So, it's been fun getting to know you guys. I'm looking forward to the deals in the future and helping our clients. How do we get a hold of you, Heath? If somebody's looking for you, other than just reach out to me, and I'll make sure that if they get a hold of me, I'll get you in touch with you. But and we'll put your contact information in the show notes if that's all right with you.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a website, fiduciary1031.com. We're also on LinkedIn, Facebook. I also am starting an Instagram page, the Fiduciary 1031 guy. It's going to be a lot of educational pieces on there. I'm not going to bombard people with weird content. It's just going to be more quick hitters to remind you that, hey, we exist. We can help clients in this scenario, that scenario. And then we're always a phone call away or a text away. I mean, it could be Saturday night at 5:00. Again, not ideal, but it's day 44 and the client's plans fell through, and we're happy to take that call. So.
Yep, I know you are. And yeah, you got to do something, that Instagram thing. You got to do something with that fancy studio until 5.
I know, right? We got to put it to good use. So
yeah, somebody's got to call. That is really cool though. My office, I mean, that's what mine's been forever. But now that I have my own theme music, Heath, I'm pretty sure I need to start working on my own studio. I'm thinking.
Well, you got the Husker sign. That's the most important thing.
Go Huskers.
Yep, go Big Red.
For sure. But anyway, well, sir, I appreciate so much that you took the time to do this, and look forward to catching up with you in the near future.
Thanks, Kobe. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And we will see you all down the road.
As we wrap up another episode of the American Land Seller Podcast, thank you for joining us. Visit www.americanlandseller.com and find us on one of your favorite podcast platforms. If you would be so kind and you enjoyed today's insights, please like, subscribe, rate, follow, and review us on whatever app you are listening or watching on. Connect with us on social media for updates. Until next week, Kobe wishes you success in your land endeavors. God bless you and have a great week.
The American Land Seller is brought to you in part by LandHub.com. Are you in the market for the perfect piece of land? Look no further than LandHub.com, your solution to the biggest challenges facing land buyers and sellers today. At LandHub, we're revolutionizing land transactions by effectively connecting buyers and sellers. Say goodbye to the struggle of finding or marketing land for sale. We understand the power of new media marketing, leveraging social media and targeted ads to bring together the ideal audience for all property types. Join us today and experience the expertise of LandHub's land marketing professionals. Whether you're buying or selling, let us show you the way in the ever-evolving world of land transactions. Visit landhub.com and discover what the future of land marketing looks like. landhub.com, where your land journey begins. And High Point Land Company. When it comes to buying and selling land, High Point Land Company sets the standard for excellence across the Midwest and beyond. Our expert land specialists bring unmatched market knowledge and a personal touch to every single transaction. Whether it's a farm, ranch, recreational, or even investment property, we provide the expertise and integrity you can trust. Looking to buy or sell? We offer a premier selection of properties and a marketing strategy designed to get you results. From productive farmland to recreational retreats, we help you maximize your investment. Visit www.highpointlandcompany.com today and experience the difference. High Point Land Company, a true leader in land sales.